Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The name of Allah, the most benevolent and merciful. Another new day, another opportunity, add on more positivity, subtract negativity, and let's multiply our hopes to reach the pinnacle of success. A very good morning to everyone. I welcome you all to this student enrichment program conducted by PG and Research Department of Mathematics. If you could expect the unexpected, it is definitely through prayer. No one has failed who keeps trying and praying. And I'm damn sure no program will be prosperous and successful unless we begin with the verses of Almighty. So now I invite Muhammad Abbas of 2nd BSc Mathematics to deliver Quran. Please, friend. Abbas. Abbas.
கேக்குதா
Yes, Abbas.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم أجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث صدق الله العليم.
Thank you, friend. Be blessed indeed. Most probably, welcoming is a tradition in Jamal. In this pleasant morning, I have immense pleasure in welcoming our honorable chief guest, Dr. Vikas Saxena, a statistic consultant working as associate professor in statistics and operation research, and worked as controller of examinations for approximately 2 years, and worked as a head of food business management and entrepreneurship development department for 2 years at National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management. He is equipped with PhD in statistics, MBA in operation management, and he has a 28 years of teaching experience at various educational institutes. And he was a reviewer of InterScience International Journal of Business and Data Analytics. Now he is here with us to take a lecture on application of population research in the real life situations. Please, sir, take over the session. The session is yours. Please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jamal, and thank you, the whole team of Jamal Muhammad College. And it is a privilege for me to be the part of your institution in the form of this special lecture on Operation Research. So shall I start now?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. My PowerPoint presentation is visible? Yes. My PowerPoint presentation is visible to all?
Not visible, sir. Sir,
Yes.
Please share your PPT, sir.
Okay. Just wait. I hope it is visible now.
yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Large screen.
So this talk is focusing on the applications of operations research. So I will try to start with the origin of the operation research, what exactly this subject is. Then we will come to some applications of operation research, including I will try to discuss a few examples for a few topics which might be helpful for the audience, especially the students of BSc first year and second year of mathematics. So as we know that the decision making in today's social and business environment has become a very complex task, and high cost of technology, materials, labor, competitive pressures, and so many different economic, social, as well as political factors and viewpoints greatly increase the difficulty of managerial decision making. Knowledge and technology are changing rapidly. The new problems with little or no precedents continually arise. Well structured problems are routinely optimized at the operational level of organizations, and increased attention is now focused on broader tactical and strategic issues. To effectively address these problems and provide leadership in the advancing global age, decision makers these days cannot afford to make decisions by simply applying their personal experiences, guesswork, or intuition, because the consequences of wrong decisions are serious and costly. Hence, an understanding of the applicability of quantitative methods to decision making is of fundamental importance to decision makers. For example, entering the wrong markets, producing the wrong products, providing inappropriate services, etc., will have worse consequences for organizations. While solving a real life problem, the decision maker must examine a problem from both quantitative as well as qualitative perspective, so that data so obtained should be analyzed in both perspectives to suggest solution of the problem. For example, consider a problem of an investor
So voice is not audible, sir. Your mic is being muted.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, it's audible now.
It was muted since beginning.
No, sir.
No, not from beginning, sir.
Okay, fine, fine. So to effectively address these problems and provide leadership in the advancing global age, decision makers cannot afford to make decisions by simply applying their personal experiences, guesswork, or intuition, because the consequences of wrong decisions are serious and very costly. Therefore, an understanding of the applicability of quantitative methods to decision making is of fundamental importance to decision makers. For example, entering the wrong markets, producing the wrong products, providing inappropriate services, etc., will have worst consequences for organizations. While solving a real life problem, the decision maker must examine a problem from both quantitative as well as qualitative perspective, so that data so obtained should be analyzed in both perspectives to suggest solution of the problem. For example, consider a problem of an investor seeking advice for investments in three alternatives: stock market, real estate, and bank deposit. To suggest an acceptable solution, we need to consider certain quantitative factors to be examined in the light of the problem. For instance, factors like financial ratios from the balance sheets of several companies whose stocks are under consideration, real estate companies, cash flows, and rates of return for investment in property, and how much the investment will be worth in future when deposited at a bank at a given interest rate for a certain number of years need
Sir,
to be
excuse me,
examined.
sir. Sir, please, sir.
Yes,
Please give the full screen, sir, PPT.
it is already full screen.
You are not giving slideshow, sir.
It is already there.
Play, I think F5. F5 plus F5 means it display full slide, only one screen, one PPT in a screen, sir.
Okay, I'm stop sharing and I will share it again.
Okay, sir.
Is this okay?
Uh, there are 5 slides are showing in the PPT, sir. It's okay, sir.
Okay.
It's fine, sir.
It's okay now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine, it's moving okay?
Okay, sir. No issue, sir.
So I was talking about some OR approach. So the example which we have discussed related to the three alternatives related to the investments: stock market, real estate, and bank deposit. So before reaching a conclusion, certain other qualitative factors such as weather, state, and central policies, new technology, the political situation, etc., also need to be considered. Operations research facilitates the comparison of every possible alternatives, maybe called as courses of actions or acts, to know the potential outcomes, permits examination of the sensitivity of the solution to changes or errors in the numerical values, and encourages rational decision making based on the best available approach or technique. However, it must be emphasized that timely and competent decisions should be an aid to the decision maker's judgment, not a substitute for it. And that is not to say that the management decision making is simply about the application of operations research techniques or approaches. So this figure summarizes the operations research approach by sketching the conceptual framework of the main element of the analysis. So these are the environmental influences, and here it is mentioned the organizational managerial structure, and here it is mentioned the organizational managerial behavior. So this process of management development may be utilized in an appropriate manner, and there is an imperative need for an analytical research to present a structural analysis by examining critically the levels of interaction between the application process of operation research, various systems and organizations. Now come to the history of operation research. The term operations research was coined as a result of research on military operations during World War II, and later on it was named as operations research. So originally it was research on military operations during World War II. Since the war involved strategic and tactical problems which were greatly complicated, to expect adequate solutions from individuals or specialists in a single discipline, that was unrealistic. So what was the problem during the Second World War? The problem was the best use of the available resources. Resources were in the form of missiles, bombs, etc., manpower. So how the resources can be utilized in a best way? So what has been done that time? A group of individuals who collectively were considered specialists in mathematics, economics, statistics, and probability theory, engineering, behavioral, and physical science were formed as special units within the armed forces to deal with strategic and tactical problems of various military operations. Such groups were first formed by the British Air Force, and later the American Armed Forces formed similar groups. One of the groups in Britain came to be known as Blackett's Circus. This group, under the leadership of Professor PMS Blackett, was attached to the Radar Operational Research Unit and was assigned the problem of analyzing the coordination of radar equipment at gun sites. The efforts of such groups, especially in the area of radar detection, are considered vital in Britain winning the air battle. Following the success of this group, such a mixed team approach was also adopted in other allied nations. And after the war ended, scientists who had been active in the military operation research groups made efforts to apply the operations research approach to civilian problems related to business, industry, research and development, etc. Many operations researchers continued their research after the war, and consequently, some important advancements were made in various operations research techniques. A key person in the post-war development of operation research was George B. Dantzig. In 1947, he developed the concept of linear programming and its solution by the method known as simplex method. And you will be surprised to know that this subject many a times is known for this particular method called as simplex method. Besides linear programming, many other techniques of operations research, such as statistical quality control, dynamic programming,
நீங்க வந்து ஆப்ரேட்டர் அந்த மெசேஜ்
sir.
Hello sir, good morning sir. You are not in the meeting sir. You are leaving in the meeting sir. Yes sir. Please disconnect. Oh my god.
sorry, I was not aware about that. I just, it might be due to some internet connectivity problem. So uh, I'm sharing my slide again. Okay.
Please give slide source.
Yes, am I audible?
Audible, sir. Please give slide show, sir. Okay, sir.
So I was talking about the history of operations research. The term operations research was coined as a result of research on military operations during World War II. And since the war involved strategic and tactical problems which were greatly complicated, to expect adequate solutions from individuals or specialists Since the war involved strategic and tactical problems which were greatly complicated, to expect adequate solutions from individuals or specialists in a single discipline that was unrealistic. Therefore, groups of individuals who collectively were considered specialists in mathematics, economics, statistics, and probability theory, engineering, behavioral sciences, and physical sciences were formed as special units within the armed forces to deal with strategic and tactical problems of various military operations. Such groups were first formed by the British Air Force, and later the American armed forces formed similar groups. One of the groups in Britain came to be known as Blackett's Circus. This group, under the leadership of Professor PMS Blackett, was attached to the Radar Operational Research Unit and was assigned the problem of analyzing the coordination of radar equipment at gun sites. The efforts of such groups, especially in the area of radar detection, are considered vital in Britain winning the air battle. Following the success of this group, such a mixed team approach was also adopted in other allied nations. After the war ended, scientists who had been active in the military operation research groups made efforts to apply the operations research approach to civilian problems related to business, industry, research and development, etc. Many operations researchers continued their research after war. Consequently, important advancements were made in various operations research techniques. A key person in the post-war development of operation research was George B. Dantzig. In 1947, he developed the concept of linear programming and its solution by a method known as simplex method. And many a times this subject is known because of this simplex method. Besides linear programming, many other techniques of operation research, such as statistical quality control, dynamic programming, queuing theory, and inventory theory, were well developed before the end of 1950. In India, operation research came into existence in 1949 when an operation research unit was established at Regional Research Laboratory, Hyderabad, for planning and organizing research. At the same time, Professor R.S. Verma also set up an OR team at Defense Science Laboratory to solve problems of store, purchase, and planning. In 1953, Professor P.C. Mahalanobis established an OR team in the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, to solve problems related to national planning and survey. The OR Society of India was founded in 1957 and started publishing its journal OpSearch from 1964. In the same year, India, along with Japan, operational research societies with its headquarters in London. The other members of IFORS were UK, USA, France, and West Germany. So what is OR? Literally, the word operation may be defined as some action that we apply to some problem or hypothesis, and the word research is an organized process of seeking out facts about the same. So thus, operation research has been described as the science of use, quantitative common sense, and scientific approach. Some definitions of operation research are by T.L. Sati. OR is the art of giving bad answers to problems which otherwise have worse answers. By Hamdi A. Taha, OR is a scientific knowledge through interdisciplinary team effort for the purpose of determining the best utilization of limited resources. By H.M. Wagner, OR is a scientific approach to problem solving for executive management. So finally, you may say that operation research is basically a science which is having lots of application in the area of management and allied fields, and it is actually the best utilization of the limited resources. So this definition best suited for the subject, best utilization of the limited resources. The scopes of operation research, we have so many applications available in the area of agriculture, finance, industry, marketing, personal management, production management, research and development. Now, operation research and decision making. Due to rapid changing technology, high degree of uncertainty, lot of growing competition, and with so many business constraints available in every business, rapid rising cost of input, the applications of operation research are increasing in a very fast manner. And it helps the decision makers in taking the optimum decisions. Optimum means the best under the given conditions. So it helps the decision makers in taking the best decisions or the optimum decisions, whatever the situations they have. So if we talk about the applications of operation research, the applications are there in the personal management, to study labor turnover rate and accident rate, to determine the optimum manpower planning, to decide the number of person to be put on the permanent role and the number of person to be kept as standby to meet absenteeism. It has application in production management also, to decide the number of machines that can be manned by a single operator, to study time lost due to various causes, waiting time, hunting time, queue time, transit time, and the like in queuing theory. It helps to decide optimum allocation of job to the facilities and the optimum sequence in which jobs should be performed with the help of assignment and sequencing problems. It is of very good use in quality control. So it helps to see whether the manufacturing process is under control and thereby identify the presence of assignable causes. So it helps in checking the quality of the manufactured product during the process, and you may check the quality of the product at the final stage also. It helps to measure natural tolerance, also called process capability of machine. It helps to decide at the reduced cost of the inspection the fate of the incoming lot in the company's inward inspection with the help of sampling inspection plans, also known as acceptance sampling. Operation research is of good use in marketing management. It helps to determine the optimum product mix. It means how many units need to be produced to get the maximum profit or to get the minimum cost. It helps to fix up the location of distribution points and warehouse for least cost of transportation of units from warehouse to customer. It means it helps the decision makers or the business persons to take the decision regarding how many units should be transported from various origins to various destinations, so that the total transportation cost will be least or minimum. It helps in choose between different medias of advertising, and it helps in drawing the sales forecast. Operation research has a lot of scope in finance management also. So many applications are there in finance management, like it helps in interpreting financial statements of business or industrial concern to have an idea of its growth potential, profitability, financial stability, liquidity, etc. It helps to develop capital invest plans and evaluate the proposals for its viability. It helps to determine optimum replacement policies. So now we are going to discuss some important operations research techniques with their respective applications. I have taken a few because of the limitation of time. I've tried to cover 6-7 techniques in this presentation. In techniques, lot of techniques are available, like in statistical techniques, we are having method of collecting data, classification, tabulation, probability theory, sampling analysis, correlation and regression analysis, then time series analysis, analysis of variance, ratio analysis, statistical quality control, acceptance sampling related to the quality control again, then work sampling, theory of attributes, etc. In operation research techniques, we are having inventory models, linear programming, queuing theory, critical path analysis, sequencing models, allocation models, distribution models, investment theory, replacement theory, simulation, theory of games, and different types of linear quadratic programming, etc. In inventory model, we used to see how much quantity needs to be ordered depending upon the level of stock we are maintaining. In linear programming, we used to study the number of units in a product mix problem. Like we used to study the number of units to be produced. If suppose 2 products are being manufactured in an organization, then linear programming will help you in taking the decision regarding how many units to be produced of product 1 and product 2 respectively under the given constraints. Constraints will be in the form of like resources available. Constraints will be in the form of raw material available, the labor hours available, the machine hours available, etc. Right? So queuing theory will help you in taking the decision regarding the waiting lines. And many a times we can see that whenever we are supposed to stand in a queue, maybe related to the reservation counters and etc., many a times we used to blame the service providers that why they are not opening some more counters whenever we have to wait for some more time. So we used to blame the service providers that why they are not opening some more counters. But had we ever imagined opening of some more counters means what? Opening of some more counters means cost of providing the services will get increased, will get doubled or tripled, etc. So queuing theory will help us in deciding whether some more counters are genuinely required or not. In critical path analysis, this is related to the project management. We have critical path method, we are having project evaluation and review technique. So it helps us in deciding the time duration of the project, and it also helps us in deciding the critical activities, the most important activities of a project with the help of network analysis. In sequencing model, we used to analyze what is the best sequence of the available jobs, in what order the jobs needs to be performed, so that the total time in completion of all the jobs will be least or minimum. In allocation model, the allocation of jobs to various facilities or machines needs to be decided so that the total time in completion of all the jobs will be least or minimum. Then we have a distribution models, investment theory. Replacement theory is quite interesting, where the optimum time of replacement of a machine or equipment is decided on the basis of this theory. Like suppose somebody is using a machinery, and after some time we feel that the maintenance cost of the machinery is getting increased. So how we decide that what is the right time of replacing the old machinery with a new one? Then simulation also help us in making the data which is not real data, and which help us in analyzing the situations, all the real life situations, without collecting the actual data. Theory of games helps us in taking the decision regarding the cases of uncertainty because of the market competition, so many things. So I'm going to discuss a few of these topics in this particular session. Phases of operation research. Whatever the techniques we are going to use in operation research, each and every technique has some phases. And the first and the foremost thing in operation research is to convert the given situation. The situation may be provided to you in the form of a case, a story, or a situation needs to be converted into a mathematical model form. So formulation is termed as the conversion of given situation into a mathematical model form. That is also called as the constructing of the mathematical model. So first of all, you need to formulate the problem. Then you will create the mathematical model. And after that, we try to derive the solution from the model which we have created. And after that, we need to test the model and its solutions. If any kind of updation is required, that needs to be done at this place, then controlling the solution, and after that, implementation of the model which is created in the real life scenario. What are the advantages of operation research? Like, problems under consideration become controllable through operation research. Operation research provide a logical and systematic approach to provide to the problem. It provides the limitation and scope of an activity, and you may find it useful because it eliminates duplication of methods applied to solve problems. It also help us in finding the solution of research and improvements in a system. OR provides an economic description and explanation of either the operation or the systems they represent. Of course, there are certain limitations of operation research also. Like, operation research involve the use of mathematical model. As I told you that the first job in operation research is to convert the given situation into mathematical model form. Then only you will be able to find the solution. Overuse of assumption to simplify mathematical model may not represent a true situation. Consider only tangible factors. Some of the intangible factors which are not given due weightage, like background, past experience, etc. Usually associated with high cost, specialized persons and computer may be needed. Such expenditures usually discourage small firms in adopting operation research techniques. But these days, as new tools are developed day by day, so the use of operation research is becoming popular day by day. So the first concept which I am going to discuss here is linear programming problems. In short, we may call it LPP, linear programming problems. It is the most basic concept of operation research, and many of the concepts which I'm going to discuss are based upon the concept of linear programming. So linear programming is a widely used mathematical modeling technique developed to help decision makers in planning and decision making regarding optimal use of scarce resources. So applications of linear programming problems are there in agriculture, military, production management, financial management, marketing management, personal management, etc. In marketing management, it may be used for media selection in the form of traveling salesman problem also. In financial management, for portfolio selection and for profit planning. In production management, for product mix, then production planning, line balancing, and blending problems. Let us consider a situation. Suppose in an organization, two products are being manufactured. The name of the two products are bowls and mugs, right? The profit contribution from these two products are in dollars 40 and 50 respectively per unit. 40 per unit and 50 per unit respectively from these two products. And these are the requirements. Like if we are making 1 unit of bowl, then it needs 1 hour of labor and 4 pounds of clay. For producing 1 unit of mug, 2 labor hours and 3 units of clay will be required. And here it is mentioned that there are 40 hours of labor and 120 pounds of clay available each day. 40 hours of labor and 120 pounds of clay available each day. So this is a situation given to you. So 2 products are being manufactured. Now you need to calculate the number of bowls and mugs to be made so that the revenue gets maximized. So this is the situation. So first of all, to obtain the solution of this problem, first of all, we need to convert this situation into a mathematical model form. And in mathematical model, 3 things are important. Number 1, you need to write down the decision variables. Decision variables means what we are supposed to decide. Then you will write the objective function. Like this problem is related to revenue, that is profit. So objective is to maximize the revenue. Objective is to maximize the profit. Then we will definitely have certain constraints. Constraints are in the form of limitation of labor hour and limitation of clay or the raw material available with us. So these are the limitations, will be written in terms of constraints. Fine. So first of all, we need to write a mathematical model for this. Writing the mathematical model will look like this. So first of all, you need to write down the decision variables. So decision variables are taken as, let x1 denote the number of bowls to be produced and x2 denote the number of mugs to be produced so that the profit will be maximum. Now, if we are going to produce x1 units of bowls and x2 units of mugs, and we already know that per unit profit contribution from bowls is 40 and per unit profit contribution from mugs is 50. So in producing x1 unit of bowls, we may receive a profit of $40 times x1. Similarly, in producing x2 unit of mugs, the profit contribution will be 50 times x2. So the total profit which we may receive in producing x1 units of bowls and x2 units of mugs will be this one. This may be denoted by Z, and our objective is to maximize this Z. So this may be termed as objective function. So your first job is to write down the decision variables. Then in LP formulation, linear programming formulation, you will write the objective function. After that, you will write the constraints. Constraints will be the inequations regarding the limited resources. So limited resources are the 40 labor hours and 120 clay constraints. And it is mentioned in the problem itself that to produce 1 unit of bowl, we need 1 labor hour, and to produce 1 unit of mug, we need 2 labor hours. So we are going to produce x1 unit of bowls and x2 units of mugs. So that will be 1 into x1 plus 2 into x2. And that cannot exceed 1 into x1 plus 2 into x2. That cannot exceed 40 because we have only 40 available with us. Similarly, to produce 1 unit of bowl, 4 pounds of clay. To produce 1 unit of mug, 3 pounds of clay will be required. And we are going to produce x1 units of bowls and x2 units of mugs. So the total clay required will be 4 times x1 and 3 times x2, and which cannot exceed 120. So that's why you will write 4x1 plus 3x2 less than or equal to 120. So this is a labor constraint and this is a clay constraint, right? And after that, you are supposed to write the non-negativity constraint also. Non-negativity constraint means what we have taken x1 and x2. x1 denotes the number of bowls to be produced and x2 denotes the number of mugs to be produced. So the values of x1 and x2 cannot be negative. So this should be, it is wrong here. This should be greater than equal to 0. Please make it correct, right? x1 and x2 should be greater than equal to 0.
Sir, your mic
So your
is
mic is muted, sir.
sir, your mic is muted, sir. Because sir,
Is it okay?
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So there was a small correction here. I need to make it correct. Yes. So this x1, x2 greater than equal to 0. Screen is visible or not? Sir,
Visible,
Yes, sir,
sir.
visible, sir.
it's visible. That's great. So the important point here is why this is called as linear programming problems. It is called linear programming problem because all the mathematical expressions in the LP formulation, when we are converting the given situation into a mathematical model form, all the mathematical expressions involved in this LP formulation are linear in nature. You may see that the objective function is linear. The two constraints are also linear. I hope everybody knows what is linear. Linear means where all the variables are having power 1, exactly 1. Then the mathematical expressions will be termed as linear. So all the mathematical expressions involved in this problem are linear in nature. That's why it is called as linear programming problem. Now suppose in a situation, the mathematical expressions which you are making are not linear. Then you will go for non-linear programming and sometimes quadratic programming. So we have some other variants of linear programming also, but the linear programming concept is the most basic concept of operation research. That's why I've started with this linear programming only. So it is linear programming. Why it is called linear? Because the mathematical expressions which we have made in LP formulation are all in linear form. That's why it is linear programming. So we have some advanced concepts of linear programming like quadratic programming, non-linear programming, integer programming, etc. We may have used goal programming also. So many advanced concepts in operation research are there, depending upon the
Sir, your mic is muted, sir. Because sir, sir, please unmute your mic, sir.
Is this fine?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So After applying the methods of linear programming problems, methods for obtaining the solution of linear programming problems, we may get the solution like this. Like x1 is equal to 24 balls, x2 is equal to 8 mugs, and the maximum revenue will be $1360. It means we are supposed to produce 24 units of bowls and 8 units of mugs to get the maximum revenue of this much. Fine. So how we will get this solution? We have different methods available for obtaining the solution of linear programming problem. We may go for graphical method, we may go for algebraic methods. I'm going to discuss very quickly the graphical approach. In graphical solution method, you need to plot all the constraints of linear programming problem on a graph paper. Like you can see the sorry, you can see that in the first diagram, the two constraints 4x1 plus 3x2 less than equal to 120 is being shown here. The second constraint x1 plus 2x2 less than equal to 40 is shown here. The two lines, the two constraints are plotted in the form of lines, and because they are less than equal to, so some common area is supposed to be find out. This common area is called as the feasible region, and your solution will be lying somewhere in the feasible region. As per the theorem of linear programming problem, the optimum solution will lie at one of the corner points of this feasible region. So you need to find out the value of revenue at each of the corner points of this feasible region. And when you find the values, you will see that the optimum solution is lying
Sir,
transportation problems. So to study
slide is not visible, sir.
I'm so sorry. Why it is happening?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
32, slide number 32.
Is it visible or not?
Visible, sir. Sir, please. So, slide number 32,
Ah.
sir.
I don't know why it is happening. Yes. Actually, I'm using this Microsoft Teams for the first time.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, I never find this kind of difficulty. I'm extremely sorry.
No problem, sir. Kindly show me the slide number 32, sir.
So the next topic related to this operation research application is transportation problems. And of transportation problem is again one of the essential component of any business world. So the study of transportation problems helps to identify optimal transportation routes along with units of commodities to be shipped in order to minimize total transportation cost. Because of its spatial structure, the usual simplex method is not suitable for solving transportation problems. These problems require special methods of solution. So first of all, this transportation problem, as it's mentioned, it is a special case of linear programming problem, right? But the situation is that we are supposed to find the number of units to be transported from various origins to various destinations so that the total transportation cost will be least or minimum, and that will be termed as the optimal transportation routes, just to obtain the minimum total transportation cost. right? So because of the complexity of the problem, the number of decision variables would increase and it will be difficult to apply simplex method. So many constraints, so many decision variables will be there. So that's why some separate methods have been devised to obtain the solution of transportation problem. If we talk about the applications of transportation problem, it can be used to minimize the shipping cost. It can be used to determine the low cost location. It can be used to find the minimum cost production schedule. It can be used to find the military distribution system, etc. So it has so many applications in the business world, in the other areas also. Let us take one example related to this, but the solution phases of transportation will be look like this. It will be phase one and phase two. We can divide the total transportation solution methods into two phases. One phase will be to obtain the initial basic feasible solution, and the second phase consists of to obtain the optimal basic solution. In the initial basic feasible solution, we have so many methods available with us, but the most commonly used methods are mentioned here. Like you can use northwest corner rule, you can use row minima method, you can use column minima method. Then Vogel's approximation method is also available. Least cost method is also available. So many methods are available, and the most commonly used methods are these. Out of these, and all these methods are their respective merits and demerits, we need to choose an appropriate method. But whatever the method you will use, the optimal solution will be same. Whether you are finding the solution, basic feasible solution by northwest corner rule or Vogel's approximation or least cost method, the solution will be different. Initial solution will be different, but the final solution, that the optimal solution will be same. So it will be simply your choice. Like northwest corner rule is considered as one of the simplest method for obtaining the basic feasible solution. Vogel's approximation methods many times students find a bit difficult. Least cost method may be considered as a moderate, not much complexity, not very easy. So it is up to the decision maker that which method he or she may use. But the final solution will definitely be same. For obtaining the final solution, we are having two methods named as stepping stone methods and modified distribution method. Now, to understand the transportation problem, let us consider a situation. You can see that this is the information provided to us, or you are supposed to collect this information. Like here, we are having three origins, O1, O2, O3, named sources, from where the goods needs to be transported to four possible destinations. So destinations are four and origins are three. And here in these cells, the per unit transportation cost are being mentioned, right? 3174. These are the per unit transportation costs. Means that if 1 unit will be transported from origin O1 to destination D1, then the per unit transportation cost will be three, whatever it is. It may be dollars, it may be rupees. So let it be rupees. So if 1 unit is transported from O1 to D2, then the per unit transportation cost will be 1. If 1 unit is transported from O1 to D3, then the per unit transportation cost will be 7, and like this. So these are the information available to you. Along with that, there are certain constraints. Like so constraints are the availability, like in the form of supply. At O1, only 250 units are available. At O2, 350 units are available. At O3, 400 units are available. And the requirement of these destinations are also fixed. Like at D1, 200 units are available. Sorry, 200 units are required. At D2, 300 units are required. At D3, 350 units are required, and so on. So with this information provided to you, you need to find out how many units should be transported from O1 to D1, how many units should be transported from O1 to D2, how many units should be transported from O1 to D3, and so on, so that the total transportation cost will be least or minimum, right? So here our objective is to minimize the total cost, the total transportation cost, and your decision variables will be the number of units to be transported from various origins to various destinations. So we will have 12 decision variables in this situation, and finding the solution for 12 decision variables with the help of linear programming methods like simplex method, it will be rather very difficult. So that's why some separate methods have been devised, as I told you earlier. So here, what is the solution steps for finding the solution of transportation problem? The first step here is to check. You need to check if the problem is not balanced. Balance means the total supply and the total demand should be matching. Like here you can see 250 plus 350 plus 400, it is 1000. And here it is 200 plus 300, 350, 150, it is again 1000. So this problem is balanced. But suppose the two sides, the total of the two sides are not matching, then it will be termed as unbalanced transportation problem. Fine. So here, if the problem is not balanced, then the concept of a dummy row or a dummy column to transform the unbalanced problem to the balanced one need to be followed. So your step one in the solution method will be to check whether the problem is balanced or not. If it is not balanced, then you have to make it balanced by introducing a dummy row or dummy column. Then after that, you need to find the basic feasible solution by any of the methods mentioned earlier, like northwest corner, Vogel's approximation, any method you can use. Here I have used northwest corner rule to obtain the initial basic feasible solution. And the initial basic feasible solution have been obtained like this. After obtaining the initial basic feasible solution, you can see that the total transportation cost is coming out as 3700. How this is 3700? From first origin to first destination, 200 units needs to be transported as per this solution, and the per unit transportation cost is 3. So 200 into 3, it is calculated here. Similarly, 50 units are to be transported from O1 to D2, and one per unit transportation cost is 1. So 50 into 1, it is calculated here. So in this way, the total transportation cost is being obtained as 3700. Now, shall we say that this 3700 is minimum? No, we cannot. We have to apply the optimality test to check whether this solution is optimum or not. Now, we are having two ways for checking the optimality. Either we will go for modified distribution method, or we will go for stepping stone method. Stepping stone method is considered as the classical method. It is older one. So it's a bit lengthier, and modified distribution method is the modified version of stepping stone method. So there could be several basic feasible solutions, but the one that minimizes the total transportation cost is said to be optimal solution. So there are two methods to find the optimal solution, because we are having so many basic feasible solutions available with us. So to check the optimality of that feasible solution, we will apply any of these two methods in transportation problems. Then after transportation problem, we have another situation in linear programming problem called as assignment problems. So assignment problem is a special case of a transportation problem, and you know that transportation problem itself is a particular case of linear programming problem. So this is the situation where the resources are allocated to an equal number of activities with an aim of either minimizing the total cost, minimizing the total distance, minimizing the total time, or maximizing the profit. The concept of assignment problem has been applied to solve a problem of the Central Post Office Bandung, which had a difficulty in assigning 10 workers to 10 destinations of post office delivery centers. So this is a situation where 10 workers are mentioned on the left hand side, and the 10 locations or the areas are mentioned at the top side, and these are the traveling time. So this table is showing the traveling time of 10 employees to deliver mailing packets to 10 post office delivery centers in this area that is mentioned. The names are mentioned here. So assignment problem will help you in obtaining the solution of such kind of situation, where we will decide that which worker will get which area. because the ultimate objective is to minimize the total traveling time. The objective is to minimize the total traveling time. So after in assignment problem, there is only one method available for obtaining the solution, and the method is named as Hungarian method. Based on the data collected, manager of the Central Post Office, Benden, has 10 workers for 10 separate destinations, and the traveling time of assigning each destination to each worker is given. His goal is to assign one and only one destination to each worker in such a way that the total traveling of assignment is minimized. That means one worker will get only one area. Based on the data in table 1, the optimal assignment matrix was produced by applying Hungarian method of assignment as shown in this table. This table is for optimal assignment. So you can see that the places where 0 is mentioned, these are the highlighted areas these are the allocations. That means that worker 4 have got area 2, worker 3 have got area 3, worker 2 have got area 4, worker 1 have got area 6, and so on. So Hungarian method has been applied which we have got after applying the Hungarian method. This allocation will definitely in such a way that the total traveling time will be least or minimum. So the solution which has been obtained is worker 1 will get this location, worker 2 will get this location, worker 3 will get this location. So based on the optimal solution in table 2, the assignment of workers from Central Post Office Bandung to each post office delivery centers in Bandung can be seen in table 3 below. Optimal assignments of the cases were obtained for the Central Post Office Bandung. The total optimal number of traveling time of the cases is 387. So you will see that the methods which we have discussed, like linear programming problem, transportation problem, assignment problem, all these methods are quite interesting, and it's need a basics of mathematical analysis calculations. Not much calculations are required, but the methods are iterative methods, so same steps will be repeated again and again. And all these three topics which we have discussed just now are coming in one category of linear programming problem. So I told you that the transportation problem is a particular case of linear programming problem. Assignment problem is also a particular case of linear programming problem. So it is that. The next topic, the next application of operation research is the replacement theory. It is, again, I told you, very interesting. A policy is required in order to determine an age at which replacement of job performing units such as men, machines, equipment, etc. is economical. So replacement of human beings are required, replacement of machines are required, replacement of parts of the machineries are required after a certain period of time, right? So this replacement theory will help us in finding the optimal period of replacement, So items such as machines, vehicles, etc., whose efficiency deteriorates with age due to constant use, increased maintenance or operational cost is the indicator, and we can find the solution. We can find the optimal period of replacement by using replacement technique. Then second category is the items such as light bulbs, electric motors, radio, TV parts, etc., which fail suddenly. So this is the category of sudden failure is the indication. Hence, probability concept used to calculate replacement here. And the third category is the replacement of the human beings. Existing working staff in a company gradually reduces due to the retirement or any other reasons. So in fact, the concept of retirement age is basically based upon the concept of replacement theory. If it feels that after a certain age, a certain kind of job, the person will not be able to perform a certain kind of job with full efficiency. So that's why the concept of retirement age has been decided. And it is depending upon the nature of job. In certain kind of jobs, the retirement age may be 40. In certain kind of job, the retirement age may be 55. Sometimes it is 60 or 65, etc. This is one example related to replacement theory. Just have a look on this. A firm is considering replacement of machine whose cost price is 12,200 and its scrap value is 200. From experience, the running or the maintenance and operating costs are found to be as follows. Here, year-wise running cost or the maintenance cost is mentioned. So running cost includes maintenance and operating cost. Now, when should be machine replaced? So the basic rule for replacement theory is if the running cost is increased at a certain level, then it is better to replace the old machinery with a new one. And this concept can be applied to all the household items also. Here in this problem, you can see the scrap value is maybe denoted by S. It is 200. Cost of machine is 12,200. So let us calculate the average cost per year during lifetime of machine. So first column is for year, which is given. Second column is for running cost, RN, which is also given in the problem. Now you need to calculate the cumulative running cost. By the end of first year, the running cost, we have made investment on running cost this much. By the end of second year, 700 has been invested on running cost. By the end of third year, total 1,500 has been invested on running cost. These values are obtained just by accumulating the running cost like this. So 200, 200 plus 500, that is 700, 700 plus 800, it is 1,500 plus 1,200, it is like this. So these are the cumulative running cost. Then you need to calculate the depreciation. The cost of the machine was 12,200 and scrap value is 200. So depreciation is this much. So total cost will be depreciation plus cumulative running cost is this. Now you need to calculate the average cost. Average cost will be the total cost divided by the year of service. So it is 12,200 divided by 1. It is 12,700 divided by 2. You will get 6,350. Then 13,500 divided by 3. You will get 4,500 and so on. So you will see that the average cost is decreasing, right? So average cost is decreasing with time. But after a certain point of time, you may see that like here it is 3167, then after that it is 3171, 3275. It means that during this period, the average cost of the machinery is again start increasing. So this is the optimal period of replacement. So the average cost per year is 3167, which is minimum in the 6th year as shown in the table. So this is the right time of replacement. So also average cost per year is 3171 in 7th year, which is more than the cost in the 6th year. Therefore, machine should be replaced after every 6 years. So this can be make like a rule that after every 6 years, the machine will be replaced. So this is, I've taken the simplest example of replacement just to have an insight in the concept of replacement theory. Then another interesting concept in operation research is game theory. Now, what is game? Game is basically a competitive situation, or a game is a contest involving two or more competitors, each of whom wants to win. So any competitive situation may be termed as a game. A theory of games provides series of mathematical models that may be useful in explaining interactive decision-making concepts when two or more competitors are involved under conditions of conflict and competitions. So conflicting situations are there because both wants to win. So that's why conflict is there. And Both wants to win. Competition is obviously there. So any competitive situation may be termed as game. And you may see that in the business situation, because of the large competition available in the market, so game theories applications are numerous. I'm not going into the detail of the things because of the time constraints, but you should know that in game theory there are certain terms which needs to be understood. Like there will always be the number of players, which is always more than two. Then we may have two-person game or n-person game. If the number of players are two, then it will be called as two-person game. If the number of persons are more than two, it may be three, four, five, and in general n, then it will be termed as n-person game. Then we may have zero-sum game and we may have non-zero-sum game. If the sum of the gain to one player is exactly equal to the sum of losses to another player, so that the sum of the gains and losses will be zero, then the game is said to be zero-sum game. If it is not, then it will be non-zero-sum game. So if the sum total of gains and losses will be equal, then it will be called as zero-sum game. Then there is a term called strategies. Strategies are the way the two players or the more than two players are dealing their plays. So the way they are dealing their games, that will be strategies. So pure strategy means with saddle point, and mixed strategy means without saddle points. So in pure strategy, the methods which will be used are minimax and maximum principle will be used to obtain the solution of pure strategies. Whereas in mixed strategy, we have arithmetic method, algebraic method, graphical method, matrix method, shortcut methods available for mixed strategy. So ultimately, we are supposed to find the optimum strategies of the two players or more than two players in the game. Saddle point, the maximum value equals the minimax value, then the game is said to have the saddle point, which is also called the equilibrium point. Then payoff matrix, before finding the solution of any game, you need to make a matrix, a table, in which on the left hand side you will write all the possible strategies of player A, player 1, and on the top side you will write all the possible strategies of player B. Strategies means the courses of actions, right? The possible courses of action of player A will be written on the left hand side of the matrix, and all the courses of action, possible courses of action of player B will be written at the top side of the matrix, and the values, the gain or the losses will be written in the terms of payoff matrix. So payoff matrix needs to be made in advance. Then we have a dominance rule. This rule is used to reduce the size of the payoff matrix, because many a times when the payoff matrix size is very large, then it's difficult to obtain the solution by algebraic method. So for that purpose, it is necessary to reduce the size of the matrix. And value of the game, this is the expected payoff at the end of the game. This is one good example of game theory. Generally, we used to write examples related to game theory in terms of market competition. But here, the situation is taken in a different way. So a company is currently involved in negotiation with its union on the upcoming wage contract. What are the optimal strategies for the union as well as company? Solution: the game has no saddle point, so we will reduce the size of the matrix by dominance property. And after applying the dominance rule, the size of the matrix is reduced like this. So first column is dominated by third column, and first row is dominated by third row. So we have reduced the size of the matrix like this. Then further it is reduced. B2 may be deleted from the matrix. B2 means the second strategy of player B, as average of B3 and B4 is same. So further the size of the matrix is reduced, as A2 may be deleted and A3 and A4 are same. So this is the matrix which we will obtain after applying the dominance property just to reduce the size of the matrix. Now we can apply algebraic method to obtain the solution. The solution is P is equal to 2 by 3. P is the probability of a certain strategy of player A, and similarly you can obtain the probability of strategies of player B also. Then another concept regarding the application which is very much widely used in project management techniques are PERT and CPM. So PERT and CPM are commonly used techniques to show the logical sequence of activities to be performed in any project in order to achieve project objectives on or before time completion with minimum cost and maximum quality. So let us take one example here where the name of the activities are mentioned here. These are the activities and these are the expected duration of these activities. Like in calculate the time required to complete the research process and find out the critical path. So in research process, the activities are literature review, formulation of hypothesis, field analysis, then data collection, data analysis, conclusion, then rough draft, final copy, presentation, and the duration of these activities are mentioned here. So when you will apply the CPM, critical path method, then the network will look like this. And the path which is shown with the double line is basically the critical path. So critical path is 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 6. It is mentioned here 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 6. So the time duration of these paths are 3 plus 10 plus 6, that is 19 days. So duration of this research process will be 19 days. This critical path method and program evaluation and review technique, these two methods are very interesting, and it is highly used in project management techniques. Then the last topic which I am going to discuss here is sequencing. Sequencing problem is the problem of finding an optimal sequence of completing certain number of jobs, tasks, so as to minimize the total elapsed time between completion of first and the last job task. So the total elapsed time is the beginning of the first job and completion of the last job. Time duration between these two. So this is an example related to this. A bookbinder has one printing press, one binding machine, and manuscripts of 7 different books. So 7 different books. The printing time for these 7 books and the binding time of these books are mentioned here. So the time required for performing printing and binding operations for different books are shown in below. You need to decide the optimum sequence of processing of books in order to minimize the total time required to bring out all the books. So here Johnson's algorithm is used to obtain the solution of sequencing problems. And as per the Johnson's algorithm, first of all, we need to find the optimal sequence. Means this optimal sequence will give you the minimum total time. Means if these 7 jobs will be performed in this order, this is a sequence, this is the optimal sequence. Means if these 7 jobs are performed in this particular order, then the total time will be minimum. Here we need to find out what will be the total time and what will be the idle time of the two machines, maybe termed as printing machine or the binding machine, or maybe the two processes, the printing process and the binding process. So the 7 books, optimal sequence for the 7 books are mentioned in this column. Then time in and time out for printing, time in and time out for the binding will be here. In the last column, idle time of the binding will be calculated, and idle time for the printing will be 50 hours. So in this table, the minimum total elapsed time, that is time from start of printing of books 6 to binding of the last book 7, 6 to 7. The total elapsed time, that is the minimum total elapsed time, is 460 hours. And in the process, the printing machine remains idle for 50 hours, and the idle time for binding machine is shown in the above table. Idle time for binding machine is this. That will be 70 plus 15, that is 95. Total 95 is the idle time of binding machine. So in sequencing problem, we are supposed to find the solution like this. The problem will be given to you in this way, and you need to find the optimal sequence of the jobs mentioned to you. So Johnson's algorithm is the only method which may be used for obtaining the solution of sequencing problems. This is all from my side. Thank you so much. And if you are having any query regarding the things which I have discussed, I would be happy. I would be definitely appreciate this. Sir. I think I have completed in
Thank you so
time.
much, sir. Prashna, sir.
Yes, yes.
So doubt, sir.
Yes, if anybody is having any doubt, then please.
Sir, you are explaining that method 12, but you take only 4 only, sir. Balance, sir. But another one doubt, you are starting with the Q sequences, but the classification you can started. But first method you are missing, sir. That's why I asked to you.
Actually, I have not explained all the methods. It was not possible to discuss all the methods in this 1 hour 30-minute session. So I have tried to touch, and I've just tried to give the glimpse of the methods used in operation research. If you are having any doubt, then you are always invited to talk to me, and you can write a mail regarding your queries that way.
Okay, sir. Another one doubt, sir.
Yes, please.
Difference between decision making and the sequence.
Can you please repeat?
Difference between difference between sequences and decision making.
Yes.
I think the slide number 32.
Can you please repeat?
Difference between decision making and sequences. The graph is at 32. Slide number.
Slide number. Which slide number?
32, sir.
32. Okay.
What is the difference between sequencing problem and a decision making problem? They ask.
32 slide is this.
That is the graphical solution for LPP.
Yes.
So that is no problem, sir. He asking about what is the difference between sequencing problem and the decision making problem. It's
Okay.
enough.
Look, in what situation decision is required? Decision is basically required when you are having more than one options available with you. Right? So here the techniques, all the techniques of operation research are decision making situations. Whether we are talking about linear programming, replacement, whatever it is, all the techniques are decision making problems, because we are supposed to take the optimal decision. Optimal decision means the best decision under the given conditions. So all the situations are decision making. Sequencing is also a decision making situation, because in sequencing 7 jobs are provided in our example, and those 7 jobs can be performed in any sequence. right? So what decision you are supposed to take? You are supposed to choose that sequence which will give you some optimality. Optimality in terms of minimum time or minimum cost, etc. In linear programming problem, we are again having so many solutions available with us. In the product mix problem, like if X1 denote the number of units to be produced, X2 denote the number of units to be produced of the two products A and B respectively, then you need to decide how many units of product 1 and how many units of product 2 should be manufactured so that the total profit will be maximum, right? So all the situations which I have discussed here, in fact, the whole subject operation research is basically a subject of decision making. And many a times these days, the subject is also known as decision support systems. Here in my university, I am teaching the subject operation research with the title decision support system. I hope I am able to answer your query.
Thank you, sir. Ashik,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sometimes what you need isn't what you get, but in the end, what you get is so much better than what you wanted. There is no end without the precious word thank you. Saying thank you is more than a good manners, it's a good spirituality. So now I invite Mohammed Imtiaz of 2nd BSc Max to deliver vote of thanks. Please, friend.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we have to reach at the end of this beautiful function. First of all, I would like to thank Almighty God for making today's function a great success. On behalf of our college management and all students, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to our honorable chief guest, Dr. Vikas Saxena, Associate Professor, National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management, for his presence in the function. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your inspiring and motivating words, and we have a lot to learn from you. Wholeheartedly, I must thank you, our HOD sir, Mr. R. Jahir Hussain, for his support and guidance for organizing such an event. Thank you, sir, for assisting and encouraging all of us. And finally, thank you, students, for your kind cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
thank you, sir. Please show your face, sir. We take a screen, sir.
I'm already there, I think.
No.
Your camera.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.